The secret about dragons. Fargo is a funny name. It's the kind of name that makes you feel happy on a day with lots of rain, or if you love rain, then it just makes you feel happy. Fargo was a clumsy boy who loved competitive games and late-night hot cocoa. He hated school and bullies. His friends called him Far because of his power to see things from miles away. He had many friends, including his best friend Hash, who was a talking squirrel. Like nobody else, Fargo also had a worst enemy named Sapson. He just hated the way that Sapson acted. It was almost as if Sapson hated his home and everything about it. At the moment, Fargo's class was playing a game to see who could find the best picnic spot. Fargo was on a team with Hash. He had a horrible feeling that something awful was going to happen. Hash told him just to ignore the foolish hunch. Fargo didn't, though. Instead, he used his power to look back at the castle. The dreadful part about using his power was that it let other wizards and witches know that he needed help. In his home, magic was forbidden, so when people came to help, they were killed. When Fargo looked back, he saw something that he wished he had never seen. A dragon army had taken over the castle, and everything was on fire. Everyone thought Fargo was crazy until 5 enormous dragons came out of the woods. Fargo and Hash slipped out of sight and hid behind a rock. The dragons asked, "What should we do with them, my lord?" Nobody knew who they were talking to, until Sapson said, "Kill them all." Little did they know that Fargo and Hash had slowly snuck away from that dwelling. The last words they could catch were, "Thank you, my loyal dragons," to which the dragons all answered, "Anything for you, Dragon King." But nobody knew why the dragons attacked, for the dragons were always good allies with Fargo's kind, the Taliflarians. After about 4 days of hiding in holes and running from stinky dragons, Fargo and Hash were sweaty and so dirty that you could not see their normal skin tone. Hash gathered nuts, but that didn't give enough energy to last them through the day. "We need to get out of these smelly holes," said Hash. Fargo was ready to do anything to get out of them. "We ought to go out at different times," said Fargo happily, because he could finally get out of this dimness. They agreed that they would meet up on the big path full of lost items. After a day of hunting and gathering food, Fargo went to the big path, but Hash was not there. Fargo waited a whole day, but Hash never, ever came. About 4 hours later, when Fargo thought the earth could not hold any more of his tears, he noticed that a dragon was nearby. He could not move, for his body was paralyzed. The dragons knew Fargo's smell very well because of the many times he annoyed them. Just the thought of those foul beasts eating his family in a cookie made him shudder. Somewhere down the path lay a small dragon egg. Fargo thought it was a chicken's egg. Then Fargo realized how much he wanted to eat eggs. Fargo got out a pot that was actually meant for the picnic and boiled the egg. Any Taliflarian knows that if you boil a dragon egg, it hatches. Can you guess what happened next? The egg was brown. It hatched right there in front of him. Fargo felt that his head was going to explode. Then he heard Hash's voice and looked inside an empty tree stump. There was Hash, curled up in a little ball. He had gotten very skinny and was wet, but Fargo didn't mind. His Hash was back. They hugged until they thought their arms would fall off. Later that night, Fargo and Hash were staring at the baby dragon as it tried to fly. At that moment, Fargo decided to go to the castle with no plan, no armor, and his best friend Hash. He noticed that the baby dragon was following him, 3 steps forward, 2 back. Fargo was annoyed. He realized that he was not going to get rid of the dragon so fast. You can guess it was hard to just call it the dragon. So they asked him what his name was. The dragon could not talk, unlike most dragons, so they just called him Boop. The 3 of them left moving as swiftly as they could because it started to rain. They had no jackets and it was freezing. Hash said, "Why do we have a dragon if we can't use it to make ourselves warm?" Fargo just ignored that comment and the bitter rain. Boop was just hopping along a small path of stones. Then, out of nowhere, the big castle appeared. Before this dreadful moment, none could see the castle because of the fog. They couldn't even see their own hand in front of their faces. Now that the castle was there, Fargo was not as sure as he was before. He didn't want to walk into a castle full of fire-breathing dragons. Soon they heard the Dragon King's voice and jumped behind the castle walls. He was coming back from the human hunting trip. They had been very successful because Hash's sister was caught in the dragon's right hand. Hash wanted to jump out and free her, but it would be far too dangerous. Boop ran behind the pack and made it in, just in time before the gates closed. Fargo didn't even see him leave. Hash was now so mad that Boop was able to run after his sister before he did, that he slid under the gate without Fargo. Now Fargo was mad because he was too tall to slide under the gate. Fargo took a long branch and pushed it down to the ground and lifted himself off the ground and threw himself over. This all would have been fun to watch if it were not so serious. On the other side of the gate, Hash and Boop were waiting. They had been shut out of the castle doors. If you've ever lived with a dragon, you would understand that dragons never use doors because they can fly. Now they were trapped inside the dragon's courtyard, awaiting death. In the morning, Fargo was surprised they'd not yet been captured. Hash had been awake for hours looking for a way into the castle. He only found a garbage disposal. "Wait, Hash, this is great. You can climb up the disposal and sneak into the jail," screamed Fargo. He did this way too loud, for a dragon took notice and set off an alarm. Now they had no choice but to climb the garbage disposal. Halfway up, Hash said sarcastically, "This is great. Now we don't have to worry that they'll recognize our smell, because we'll smell like trash." Once they made it out, they reached a small hallway. It felt like hours of walking, for this was the longest hallway in the world. Once they reached the end of the hallway, Boop started to cry because he was hungry. "Shh," whispered Hash, or you'll give us away." Fargo felt bad because Boop was a small baby and needed food. Slowly they moved until they finally reached a brown door with a unicorn symbol on it. Unicorns are mean creatures that are beautiful in looks, but their hearts are as ugly and as mean as Samson. As they went through the door, they found a hurt unicorn sitting on the ground. It had a rainbow tail and looked meaner than all the dragons put together. It asked, "Do you have the answer to the riddle?" Fargo had no knowledge of answering riddles. Hash, however, loved them. He could figure out any riddle in a matter of seconds. Fargo asked, "What's the riddle?" It answered, "Bury deep, pile on stones. My mind will always dig up them bones." Hash smiled and looked at Fargo. The unicorn said, "Fargo, you alone have to answer the riddle." Fargo had no clue what the answer was. He thought and thought. Then Hash said, "Think of me." At that moment, Fargo realized that the answer was memories. He said, "Memories, memories is the answer." The mean rainbow unicorn screamed and vanished. Hash was so happy, mostly because he knew the answer before Fargo did. They went through the door that the unicorn had been guarding and found an enormous dragon on the other side. If you looked into the dragon's eyes, all you could see was hatred. Boop was torpid. Fargo saw a shield and a sword on the table behind him and grabbed it because he saw the dragon's belly turn red. If a dragon's belly turns red, that means it's about to breathe fire. Fargo jumped in front of Hash and Boop while protecting them from the fire. In a matter of seconds, Boop screamed something in Dragonish to the beast, then hugged it. Fargo and Hash were amazed that Boop got the dragon under control. The dragon could speak, so it explained to Fargo that she was Boop's mother. They spoke for a while, and then were granted passage through the door. Inside, they found what they thought their eyes would never set on again. Their families. Everyone partied for hours. They were safe inside a room as long as Boop's mother was pretending to guard it. It was nightfall, and Fargo was ready to take over the castle. This time, with armor, a plan, and his best friend Hash. They crept out of the room to ambush the dragons. But first, Fargo needed to find Samson. Fargo walked along a different hallway, not noticing something very strange. Dragons. Millions and millions of dragons sitting on the wall, just looking at him, as if they needed him to do something very important. As he reached a white door, he had been feeling again, but he did not know what it was. Maybe it was the fact that before this trip, he was a normal human boy, and now he was a hero, and everyone in the castle loved him. It was too much of a burden. As he opened the door, he knew there was no turning back. The door slowly creaked open, and the first thing that Fargo saw was Samson, sitting on the old king's throne. He smiled and said, "Fargo, just the person I wanted to see." Samson just looked at Fargo in disgust. "What did you do to these respectable dragons?" said Fargo. "Don't you know the secret about all dragons?" Samson asked Fargo mockingly. Without letting Fargo answer, he said, "Dragons listen to the one with the gold crown. They do whatever it tells them to, and I have it, so they have no choice but to listen to me. I can make them do things they never wanted to do." At that moment, Fargo saw the crown sitting on Samson's head. Samson said, "Oh, you want this? Well, you have to go past my dragons. Dragons attack." They would not move. "I said attack!" screamed Samson. One dragon yelped, just to keep him back from Fargo. They did not want to listen to Samson. They wanted to listen to Fargo. Fargo ran up to Samson and pulled out his sword. A small light came out of it. Then the light got bigger and bigger until the light was so large that it blinded Samson. Fargo quickly stole the crown. All of a sudden, the light turned off and Samson was lying on the ground. Fargo walked over to the door and opened it. Then he said to the dragons, "It's your choice what to do with him," and went through the door, slammed it shut after him. Waiting on the other side was Hash and Boop. Fargo hugged them and thanked them for always being there for him. Then he looked at the dragons and asked who the real king was. An old, crumpled dragon came out and fell before him to the ground. Fargo gave him the crown and said, "I have one request for you. Once you reach your last days, make Boop the king." The old king nodded. As Fargo walked down the hall, all the humans bowed down to him and called them their new king. He then named Hash King of the Knights. 60 years later, Boop became the best dragon king anyone has ever known. And Fargo was happy as well. The two kingdoms united as allies and lived happily ever after. The end.